how did you see that affecting, because you were, even though you're working down in
Yeah.
Houston, your home was New York.
Well, I mean, Houston, I was stuck down there. I was supposed to work through the 12th of September, and I couldn't get home for a few days. My husband finally tried to work out how I could get home. I ended up flying to Allentown. They kept opening, closing, Newark Airport, JFK, and LaGuardia. So I could not leave Houston. So finally, Allentown, Pennsylvania, their airport opened. So that's where I flew. Actually, no, I flew from Houston to Atlanta, Atlanta to Allentown, and finally made it there. My husband drove out to pick me up in Allentown to bring me home. So, but you know, I don't know if any of you are from New York City or had lived there at the time, but it was just unbelievable. I mean, we all knew people that perished, and it was just, I had friends from high school that passed away. It still, it hurts me to the core. College friends. There were funerals going on. It was endless. I mean, every day in the city you would hear bagpipes because, you know, every day there was a funeral going on for a fireman or a policeman. It was just, it was dreadful. The smells, you know, the smoldering, it was just, it was awful. But, you know, finally after the fall ended and it was a new year, I felt like a lot of us started to, I think the new year was a good thing. It was finally like, okay, it's a new year. That's behind us. Let's move on. And in my industry, it was very interesting how it did play on the psyche of the human being, where people started to reevaluate their lives. You know, a lot of people worked really hard at getting to where they're at in their success, and yet they had nothing. They had no one to share their lives with. They had no one to go home to you know, be with. And you know, in my business, it helped me. It helped me tremendously. And then there were, through that year, the business just boomeranged, and it went like this. And I was inundated with calls for people to join. And matchmakers across the country were writing articles about how their businesses were just exploding because of these reevaluations of what is really important to us in our lives.
Well, I think we had come out of the end of an era where people had really been money, pursuit of money, wealth, success were what people were aspiring to. And then it's like 9/11 created a shift where we go, is that really everything I want in my life? Is this really going to identify who I am and what I want to be? So it's a fascinating thing that you picked this career at that time in this business to be in. What did you find people were telling you at the time?
Just that they, you know, they had their degrees, they were marching up in their I mean, the banking industry, I mean, it's just, you know, they work from 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night. They just didn't have a life. They were sick and tired of being alone. You know, it was interesting when they did the count of how many people died in 9/11. Do you know that 80% of the women that passed away were single? None of them had husbands, children.
I did not know that. 80% of the women who passed away in 9/11 were single.
And 80% of the men that passed away were married.
Interesting. I'm not sure what that statistic tells us, but I think that there's
well, that
something
women,
we're telling
we sacrifice, you know, I mean, if we want to achieve level of success that we're at, I find a lot of women sacrifice. They don't get married, or they may just decide not to have children because it requires them working such long hours. And once you get into that groove, it's like you stick with it. You know, I've got a lot of women in my business that I've had a coach that they claim they want a relationship, they claim they want marriage and children, yet, you know, they're never available for even a date that I'm trying to set them up with. I'm like, well, if you're not even available for this, how the heck are you ever going to be able to find somebody? So, and it requires maybe my coaching for them to really see the light. So, but anyway, yeah, so the business, I mean, that's what I was getting constant, you know, cries for help as far as, you know, I need to meet somebody, I need to find a relationship because I'm not meeting anyone.
Do you find in your business you work with more men or women? And what's the average age? What's the average age of people who come to you to seek matchmaking help?
I would say the average is about 30 through the 40s up into the mid-50s. However, we work with clients as young as their mid-20s up to, I even have some clients in their early 70s.
Interesting.
So,
and how do most of them find you?
Well, we have a few different ways that they reach out to us. I'm very aggressive now with my internet advertising. So all the Google search words, keywords, and so forth, I have a whole campaign of acquiring those in a geo-targeted area. So New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. I'm also advertising in a few different print vehicles. I'm in Washingtonian every single month here. I have a PR a guy that helps me get publicity. Because again, back to my PR roots, I truly am a believer in spreading the word and getting it out there. And you know, by articles and having stories written about the industry, I mean, if I can offer tips and help people find love through maybe their own means even, at least I'm still getting my name out there, the company name, and offering advice. So, and then referrals are huge. I get a lot of clients through existing members that have been very happy with our service and have referred others.
Friends tell friends, and I think that that's very common. But now I ask you, so do you work with more men call you or
yeah,
more
okay.
women?
I would say I get 3 women to every 1 man that calls.
Interesting. Why do you
So-
think that is?
I think women are a lot more relaxed with seeking out services like this.
Asking for help?
Yeah, I think that, you know, men still are harboring a bit of this machismo that they don't need assistance in this matter. And, you know, they call me, well, you know, I've never done this before, and I don't really need, I don't have a problem finding dates. I'm like, yeah, I know. You're calling me, right? So there's obviously something going on. I get that all the time. But that's okay. I calm them down. I'm like, listen, I said, you know, I work with so many great guys. And they are. They truly are. They're very successful. They're amazing. They're well-educated. They're well-traveled. They don't have a problem finding dates. It's just tapping into meeting the right type, the right person. It's time. It's networking. It's, you know, it's about being presented in front of somebody and being able to make that connection. Why not hire a search agent to help you? I said, you know, you're a high-end executive. Are you going to circle all the want ads in the paper and try Monster.com? Okay, that maybe you'll get somewhere. But, you know, if you really want to excel, you're going to go for the top executive recruiter, aren't you?
Right, exactly.
It's the same thing with my business. And the men love that talk. Once I put it in those
They understand
words,
the business of,
that's why all over my
yeah.
website it's executive search firm. It's not matchmaker with a bunch of Cupid
Yeah.
hearts and all that, which is nice. Women love all
Right.
that, you know, pink and frilly stuff. But my whole website is designed to cater more towards men. I've got masculine colors because women will always call, right?
Right.
But now I'm tapping into trying to allure them as well.
what's the conversation? Is the conversation entirely different between men and women in what they're beginning to do the search process? Trying to find love or a match?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's always that guy that comes in and, you know, his ex-girlfriend was a model and all this other crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, bring in the pictures of your your girlfriend, or bring in the pictures of your wife, because that's the realistic person that they end up with, not Angela Jolie and, you know, everybody else that they claim they, you know, are entitled to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not Brad Pitt either. So it's kind of like, okay, what's
So
the
it's having
yin-yang here?
reality. You know, and people, do they really want that? I mean, you think about it. Is that what they really, really want? I think that's...
That's just, they're unrealistic. But, you know, I get it because they're paying me a lot of money to find them their ideal. So that, in their own minds, is their ideal.
Right.
So,
But then a love match, I think, is different than, a love and a heart match is different than, maybe it's the first meeting, you know, there's attraction, but it's really goes much deeper, don't you think, or
oh,
should?
absolutely, absolutely. But some people just, you know, when they start a membership, they go into it sometimes with the men, especially a bit of unrealistic expectations. But then slowly they start to come around and they calm down with a lot of it, you know, and then they realize, okay, like, you know, some of them only want to view pictures, and then they pick and choose, they cherry pick who's the best one, right? And then they go out with them and they have absolutely nothing in common. It's like, okay, well, that's what you thought that you were entitled to, and that's what you wanted, right? Well, yeah, but, you know, she's not intelligent. Yeah, it's... So, who else? Well, what about that other one I picked? So they'll go out with like 2 or 3 of those types, and then once none of those work, I could have guaranteed 100% that they wouldn't. After that, though, they have to go through with it. Then I say, okay, now you've tried your way, okay? Let me do my job, okay? Let me really exercise my skills to help you find somebody that you're going to have a connection with. You trust me? Oh, well, okay, I'll trust you now. We start.